Welcome to another episode of Omni Athlete. We created this show and company to empower your performance with the wisdom and techniques of the world's highest achieving body, mind, and spirit competitors. Okay, so today's guest is one of only 3 coaches to win a Super Bowl and college football national championship, a New York Times bestselling author, was named college football's coach of the decade in 2009, and is currently the executive vice president and head coach of the NFL's Seattle Seahawks. While he is best known for his legendary accomplishments as a football coach, the success his teams have enjoyed on the field is truly just a byproduct of his relentless drive to empower everyone he comes in contact with to experience personal excellence in everything they do and to stay connected to the beauty of the present moment. This drive has led him to also launch multiple initiatives that aim to reduce youth and gang violence through an innovative collaborative model, a high-performance mindset platform for Fortune 500 companies to develop high-performing individuals and teams, and the Performance Science Institute at USC's Marshall School of Business. It's my pleasure to introduce to Omni Athlete, the man who is always competing, Coach Pete Carroll. Welcome to the show, Pete.
Hey, Josh, thanks. Well, that's quite an introduction. We don't have much time left.
Well, let's dive right in. So, Coach, one of the first places that I wanted to start is, as I was researching you for this episode, these terms kept coming up, right? Relentless, competition, grit. And yet in the same breath, love and present moment kept coming up. And I would love if you could tie some of those pieces together.
Well, the theme of this program has always been, since we put it together years ago when we went to USC, was about competition. It was the central theme in the program. And so that runs throughout everything we're doing if it's truly the theme. I mean, my personal philosophy is as simple as you can get and tell you that it's always compete. And so if I'm doing things that are true to myself, then we're going to be competing in every turn. So the thought is you're either competing or you're not. So the thought again goes to you're in a relentless pursuit of finding the competitive edge in everything you're doing. Well, man, that's a mentality, and that's something that pretty much dominates your brain and all. But that doesn't mean that we don't connect with the elements of performance that are so crucial, which is about being able to get focused and centered and present and clear. The clarity that comes in the moments when we perform at our best is really because of the pursuit we've been on to establish the skills and the kinds of levels of competence you need to perform really, really well. And so it's a wide swath of things that come into play when you explain a program and a philosophy that's been built over 40 or 50 years, however long this has been. But hopefully, we can make sense of all of the elements of it to make it come together.
So this philosophy is so authentic to you, and I'm sure that's what allows it and has allowed it to be implemented the way you have, because it's just an extension of you, right? It's an extension of what drives you. And I wonder, do you have advice or recommendations for coaches or athletes that are trying to find a similar kind of framework? Because when I listen to you and I watch you and watch your teams perform, it's very clear that even though this is driven from you, it's not about you. And I think that's a really challenging line to walk.
Yeah, well, I do think that there's some real fundamental makeups that bring this together. And I think if you're going to really do a really good job of being you got to figure out what you is, and you got to know what that's all about. And so there's a big obligation here to self-discovery. And so that takes time. And as people are trying to figure it out, it's a process and you got to work at it. And I'm pretty adamant about trying to direct people. If you're going to really try to work to excel at something, you better step back and figure out where the heck you're coming from, so that you can authentically stay in connection with the person that you know yourself to be. And so it's there is a lot going on that does come from what I think the philosophy part of it is knowing what you believe, and the collection of those beliefs and those things that you have a sense that become uncompromising principles for yourself. Those are the things that guide you. And if you want to be, I don't care about doing good at something. I want to do well over a long period of time. I want to keep doing it. To do that, you got to know who you are, where you came from, so you can recreate the success. and what it took to be successful. So it all goes back. If you keep rolling it back, you got to get back to figuring out who you are and where you're coming from, and then try to organize a structure that can fit around that you can stay connected at all times, no matter what's going on. People can't knock you off course from that which you are, and then you have something. Now, hopefully, the collection of those things allow you to be successful, but it's so a person has to know who they are to really be at their best consistently, because you got to be able to come back to those elements that make you. A team has to know who they are so that they can create and then recreate which they are, so that they can be consistent over a long period of time, and on and on. So there is a process involved here, and there is this kind of a digging deep to understand. And so that's why, I'm a competitor. So my philosophy is always compete. So my approach is to develop a program where everybody can have a chance to strive to find the best, which is what competition is all about to me. Striving. It's the direction and the focus and the continued push to find your ways to be in connection with that which you want to become. And so all that's really important.
So what comes up for me is this topic and idea of the coach's role in helping a player and a team, right? Both and really create that internal picture for where they want to go, and both the role that you play in that, and also the responsibility that goes with guiding and really stewarding that development.
Yeah, there's a simple tool that we use that helps us create and really manifest what we want to create. And it starts with creating a vision for what you want to do or what you want to become, and or what you want to change, and having a really specific, clear thought you can write down and kind of halfway document right in front of you, and where there's no question of what's important to you. And once you've created that vision and you go, yeah, this feels good. Okay, I'm going for it. You've already set the universe in motion, in the right direction. That things now have a chance to go as you intend. But then the practice of making the vision come to life is your ability to continue to reconnect with the process and the adjustments and the changes and the growth that occurs on a consistent basis, until you can't deny the fact that you've created this thing that you were after and created this vision to come true. So that's whether it's a small change that you want to create in your own personal life, or an aspect of your game, or the makeup of what you want your team to become or your family to become. So I think it's really, to me, it seems really clear that there is a process involved, and that we have the power to direct it if we get organized and we can find the consistency and the discipline that it takes to stay in connection with the things that you're trying to create.
Was there a kind of a transition point for you, or a shift for you, whether it's in your career or just in life, that allowed you to kind of say, as a coach, I have to be able to do this for my players too? Because that's a shift that and a language that we don't hear as many coaches talk about in the way that you do.
Yeah, I think it's crucial that there were some steps along the way where some profound things happened that kind of kicked me in the butt and made me realize I needed to come to grips with what just happened and how I could make sense of this and how I can move forward with the new information. But it's also there's a discipline to that, it's a willingness to stay with it and until you can uncover like the truth that you need to know. So there's definitely a process involved here that is kind of highlighted by the moments when clarity comes. And so, I had the big one when I was fired at the Jets was a big deal for me. When I was fired again at New England, it was a big deal. But also when we won national championships, there was moments that there was realizations of what we had accomplished in the manner we had accomplished it, and how we could recreate in a new way, but yet in a similar way, the similar type of results. And so there's these moments along the way that make a big difference. Now, I go all the way back to when I was a little kid and getting in shape for my first football team too, and how I was so driven to make sure that I didn't get embarrassed, in the conditioning test that they were going to put us in. That was kind of the first step of the competition of making a club that was really important to me. And I realized when I saw the results of my work, I was running streets and hills and stuff like that when I was 10 years old on my own because I just felt like I needed to. I didn't even know what I was doing. Nobody was telling me to do that. But I wound up, when I showed up for the first day, I was able to run with the best guys and the fastest guys in the program. And it was because I was kind of scared, And so I realized that there's different ways to be motivated by stuff. And that was way back when I was a little kid, So there's all kinds of steps along the way to do the teachings if you're open and you listen and you can receive the message.
So what is the role of worthiness in self-excellence and peak performance?
Well, I would go back to that's what comes from really spirited, well-directed practice. See, we practice, and we have a thought that practice is everything to us, and that's a really big deal to us because we've come to agree that this is where we make us on the practice field. If you want to be a talented player or a talented team, you've got to practice, and you've got to practice with discipline and intention and consistency and passion and all those things, so that you can make yourself come and your team come to life. And so when that happens, the worthiness is really the process of developing confidence, I guess is another simple way to put it. But confidence is so crucial so that you know that you're okay. And you know that you have done the work, you believe in yourself, and that's so that you can trust yourself. Because the confidence comes, but then you have to go to the next step of it and trust, so that you can get rid of the connection that can enter into your brain that keeps you from being confident, that inner conversation that happens, and that questioning and second guessing that can occur. We want to eliminate all that. So what I'm trying to do in our practice is to prove to our guys that they should feel confident. Prove to our guys that they have earned the right to feel the confidence that's necessary to trust themselves. So that's where I think that's what you're asking is how do you develop the worthiness? Well, it's through hard work and practice, but then it's also you have to illustrate and illuminate the fact that you're making progress. That's so that you can trust. Once the trust is there for yourself, then we also have to develop the worthiness of your trust for people around you that are competing with you. That once that's established, then now your mind can be clear enough that you can focus and allow yourself to play like you're capable of playing. That's the whole performance model for me. That's what I'm trying to create for an individual player, but I'm also trying to create in the mind of the team that same status that comes from developing the confidence, so that you can trust those around you. So now we can go play the game, have fun, not worry about any outcome, play in the absence of the fears that come to us, and focus, in really supreme fashion. That's what we're all about. That's what we're trying to get done.
And I would imagine that when you are pushing the team or an individual just to those edges consistently, it's much easier to do that when you can reconnect to this why of let's build the confidence so that we can go play free when it's actually time to play. Is that one of the loops that you try to build, is that connection to we're pushing hard because, and here's why? It's about this ability to then be able to show up confidently and just know that you've already done it.
This shows us that there's purpose in what we're doing, and there's reason for making it count. And it's my job to develop that connection on a regular basis that allows us to find the discipline and the repetition and the ability to persevere through the big challenges and keep it coming so that you can get good. It's hard work, and it's the discipline to stay with it. But that's not enough without the acknowledgement of what you've accomplished, and so that you can own it. And once we can get to that stage, then now it's the process of recreating. Every year we have to regain the work ethic and the mentality it takes to find our best. And we find another thought, Josh, about it is how valuable the people that you compete against and the role that they play in your personal development. When we can really make the truest sense of that person across from you that challenges you to bring your best on a regular basis is the person that is actually making you, then we can understand why you should love that person so much, because they're the one. Without them, you have nothing. And so that relationship of the other is so crucial to connect us with, I think, and continue to be able to find that level of, the willingness to immerse into the process that makes it really rich and makes it really at its best. And we have used the tool of competition over the years to keep us focused, to keep us going. That's always been a really cool part of what we've done. Because if you're just doing drilling to drill, then it's not the same as when you have an outcome at stake and you're working at it and you got somebody pushing you and challenging you. That makes it all the better.
And competition doesn't just extend to the practice field or the game, right? That in terms of a philosophical standpoint, that's competing at everything that you do and everything the team does.
Yeah, well, that's the mentality. Yeah, that's what keeps you up late at night and wakes you up early and awakens you in the night with the crazy thoughts of how you can find another way. That's the relentless pursuit I'm talking about, and there's a competitive edge out there, and it keeps me up forever, but you just got to keep working at it, and trying to figure out where it fits in and how you can keep yourself on track. And then that's the discipline, but that is driven by the passion. That's what drives it's the driving force behind all of it. And that's where we talk about, grit, Josh. That's where this whole makeup of grit has made so much sense and given me language that a gritty person really comes from a passionate place. And it's the passion that drives the willingness to persevere. And then it also directs our ability to be resilient and not let obstacles get in our way, so we can keep coming back to find our best and to keep competing at our best. And that helps us really create what we're capable of creating. So it's the language is really important to us because we need to find meaning in what we're doing. And without it, we go off aimlessly and we lose the discipline that it takes.
How do you find or work to continuously compete and push those competitive edges in more of the developmental side of an individual, whether it's a player or a team, right? I mean, I think for a lot of us listening, it's really easy to say, okay, we can compete on the field, we can compete in different ways in the film room, but how do we build competition into subtle things like how we show up as a human being, right? How we show up in relationship, how we show up to our teammates. I mean, there's subtleties there that I'm sure you include in that competitive makeup.
Well, it's why everybody needs to be coached. Everybody needs to coach because at times we fail. We fail ourselves. We're not able to find the consistency or to develop the creative ways that we need to come back to the practices that we need to keep working at. And so coaches remind us and they keep us in touch and they show us how we're making progress. For instance, in our style and our makeup of our communication, our coaches are disciplined to not tell people what they did wrong in the mistakes that they made. It's to help. The first communication we want to bring to an interaction is to tell somebody what they could do to do right. And so that's the first thing that comes back after the exercise of what just occurred. And then we'll come back and we'll make points of where there was errors and all, but it's always in the idea of what we can make rather than what we did. It's the next step that is the most important, that draws the attention of our focus. If we're disciplined about it, we screw up now. We blow it. We say, why the heck what were you thinking? Well, we don't really want to know what they were thinking. We just wish they didn't do it, And so instead of going through that crazy dark cycle, I want to go right to what you could do to do right and how you could step properly or how you could replace your, the positioning or whatever it is, or say the proper words that would communicate properly to get the results you want.
So related to this, it seems like, is this concept I've heard you talk about before of reserving judgment. And I would imagine as a coach in your position, I mean, any coach at the college professional level, when you're competing, knowing that your career is on the line too, when something goes sideways, reserving judgment seems like such a challenge in those moments.
Yeah, there's a discipline to this, and you have to, I think, to own the discipline of it, you have to really believe in why judgment can be so costly. There's a resetting that happens when you pass judgment. I mean, my illustrations are pretty simple. It's like if you parred the first 3 holes of a golf outing, and your partner says, "Hey, you just parred the first 3 holes." I did. Oh, shoot, I didn't realize that. And the very next swing you take, that ball's going left or right so fast, it ain't going down the middle. It's because of what that takes you from the mentality that you were in prior to the judgment being passed. And if things were going well, you'd like to just not say it. It's like when the pitcher's pitching a no-hitter and the guys in the dugout won't talk to the pitcher as he gets later in the seventh and eighth and ninth. They ain't even talking to the guy. They don't want to make any reference to the fact of what's going on. But that's a classic illustration of allowing somebody to stay in the mentality without passing judgment. And the longer you can postpone the judgment, the longer you're able to stay in that, that kind of mentality, that flow, that zone type of thought that we talk about.
It seems like there's this very natural tension that occurs between being able to stay present, look to what we can do, and also learn as we adapt. I mean, that cycle requires, it doesn't need to be over complex, but there's this tension that I feel right there.
Yeah, it's really a discipline. And our guy that we learned from so long ago, Tim Galloway, in game of tennis, talked about it so clearly. It's just quieting the conversation and quieting your mind. And the more discipline you are able to own, that allows you to not let the judgment come out. It's a very meditative principle that you allow the thought to come in and go back out, and you don't let it change your focus. Yeah, you recognize that it's there, but you don't allow it to affect the way you're thinking or the way you're operating. That's a discipline in itself. And the ones that are better at it are the ones that trust the most. They trust themselves, and they trust the process, and they trust the strength of their the skills that they've developed. And that's how it goes. Because like you remember, there was no commercial when Michael Jordan said, I've missed 250 game-winning shots or something like that. Yeah, but I've made a bunch of them. And so it isn't the misses that he draws back. I mean, he knows they happen, but they didn't affect him because he knows the very next shot he takes is probably going in. And that's the game that you play, and that's the inner game that's so important. And the cool thing to me is not dealing with that with an individual person is one thing, but dealing with that with the mind of a team is an extraordinary challenge that I've always embraced and loved, is to get everybody on the same page so we're all together and we all can play in the absence of fear and allow ourselves to play like we're capable.
So a word that's come up now a couple of times is discipline. What does that mean to you?
Well, it's the willingness to recreate and stay with the practice that it takes to develop the skills that you desire, and that discipline. If you're not disciplined, then you're off and out and doing other things and you're distracted. No, it's the willingness to do the long, hard work that others aren't willing to do, that can make you more apt to perform and to be able to repeat performance. So that's driven by a desire to get somewhere, and it's a willingness to buy into that mentality that if I keep doing it, if I stay at it, I'm gonna get what I want done and create the desired result. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what
It does. And it fits because the backdrop, Coach, of this conversation is we have a conference coming up this July on the future of sport. And one of the areas that I'd love for you to share, whatever perspective comes to mind, is, and I think it's related to discipline because that's part of this process of being in flow and staying present. But what do you see the future of sport as?
Well, I think what I would like to think it becomes is a greater connection into the sport as the expression of yourself, and your ability to express your uniqueness, your special qualities into the games that you play, because you've been able to harness that which you are, and you're developing a sense or a discipline where you're not working to try to be something that you're not, and you can get rid of that stuff and be satisfied with that. And what I love about it is I believe to my heart that you'll perform at your best when you're most truest yourself. And so that's a great challenge in here. And I think as we learn, as we grow, that this whole inner challenge it becomes more available to us. This isn't new stuff. This is old stuff. It's been around for ages. I mean, we're talking about, and I think so many of our guys who have done great teachings have worked their way through Eastern philosophy and have found their way through the discipline of meditation and the ability to focus and create. And Michael has been one of the greats, and he's been a big influence on me. Tim Galloway was really did the same kind of path and realized how that Eastern kind of thinking had to do with the ability to maintain focus and that's what his meditation, as I understand, is all about. I think that the awareness that comes from the value of understanding that will hopefully show itself even more in sport as we grow forward. And that's where we connect with ourselves more, and we gain more out of the experience, and we can feel more connected to the activity at higher levels over longer periods of time. I mean, that's the great challenge. I think that as you see numbers and new achievements created, people are finding their way to their best even more so. And I think that's what it's happening because of this greater and deeper understanding.
How do you think coaches will have to evolve to both embrace that shift? Because I think it's coming and we're seeing it. And then also to relate more skillfully with the athletes that they're going to be coaching.
Well, I think they have to do the good work on themselves. I think they have to find the peace and the connection with their own ability to perform, that being a coach. I see everything as a performance. Just being yourself is a performance of great, of great stress at times, and a great challenge, just to stay connected to the person, that you are. And I think the more inner work that we do, I think the more reach we'll create, and the more ability we'll have to communicate with those people around us, and they'll sense that we know. And that's what I think leadership always is. People around you can sense that you know, and so they're willing to listen because they think you have something to offer them. And so I think that it's not something that's outside of ourselves. It's something that's even further deeper, in our soul. So that's what we seek and search for.
Coach, this has been absolutely incredible. But before I ask my final question, is there anywhere you want to direct these guys to go to connect with you online?
Well, they can follow whatever. I don't know. I don't even know my stuff. If they want to, we have a nice little company called C2C, Compete to Create. That is a nice company that's doing some good work in some big areas, and I think they might find the work in our coursework that really interesting. They might really like it. Dr. Michael Gervais is my partner in that, and he is a great instructor in the world of performance. He's been all over with some of the greatest performers we've ever known, and has done some marvelous things. I think everybody would have fun checking in the C2C. But also, I'd just like to say that I love the work that comes through this program and this conference every year. I wish it fit so I could be more involved, because it's right up my alley for just loving hanging out with everybody. And I wish them the best and wish I could be there, but this is what I can give. I hope you'll enjoy and have a wonderful time, and everybody give everybody a big hug.
Oh, well, Coach, thank you. Oh my gosh. Okay. So the last question is, the show's called Omni Athlete because we really want to understand what it takes to be the ultimate mind, body, and spirit competitor. So the final question is, what does being an Omni Athlete mean to you?
Well, I would hear it as it's an avenue of teaching and study that would help us find our best. And to me, that's kind of our whole world is about helping people find their best. And I know that is what you're endeavoring to do. Josh, I was coaching for years and years and years, not till a handful of years ago, when I first realized that everything I've ever done is about helping people find their best. And I didn't know it. I didn't realize that's what it was. And it became such a simple thought. So whenever, I encounter anybody who's working in that direction, you're helping others, I think it's as beautiful thing as you can do. And the phrase that's always followed me around is this win forever phrase. Win forever to me was always, if you're in the process of trying to work to find your best, then you can't help but win. And, we don't ever have to get there. We just keep on working at it and competing to find our way. And that's a beautiful thing. So what Omni's doing is doing some great stuff, and appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach. This has been awesome and energizing. Guys, please go check out what Coach Carroll and Michael Gervais are doing at Compete to Create, the work they're doing, the energy they're bringing to practices that, as Coach Carroll just mentioned, may not be brand new to the world, but to a lot of places and environments and cultures, they are brand new. And we have skills now and tools, and we're learning from two gentlemen that have literally walked the path at the highest levels of competition, and you have access to that information right now. So please go check out the work they're doing. And until next time, thank you guys for watching this episode of Omni Athlete.
Thanks, Josh. See ya.
Hey, what is up, guys? Thank you for watching another episode of Omni Athlete. Please go like and subscribe to our podcast. that is our goal right now, is just to build this community as big as we possibly can. And we need your help to do it. So like and subscribe, share our content, guys. If this content adds any value to your world, if it helps you perform, connect, go deeper, go wider, whatever it is that it does for you, if it provides value, all we ask is that you share our content and help grow this community. We can't accomplish our goal of elevating global consciousness through sport without you. You are an integral part of this mission and this purpose, and we need your help. So please go like, subscribe, and share our content, and continue to help us build and grow this community that is truly motivated to not just elevate consciousness, but elevate and shift the very culture of sport so that we can truly experience the athletic experience in a brand new and energizing way for so many people, guys. So thank you, and please like and subscribe. Until next time.